Imagine a single flimsy piece of paper, like
Yeah.
just a normal sheet.
Right, the kind you write on every day.
Exactly. If you press down on it, well, it instantly bends and collapses.
Yeah, it has basically zero structural strength.
But if you take that exact same sheet of paper and you fold it in a highly specific mathematical pattern, something absolutely incredible happens.
It really is a staggering transformation.
Suddenly, that single thin piece of paper can support up to 10,000 times its own weight.
10,000 times. And, what makes this even more important is that this secret folding method is not just some neat magic trick.
No, not at all.
It is a major structural breakthrough, one that might soon be used to provide emergency housing and actually save human lives during terrible natural disasters.
Welcome to today's deep dive. If you are listening right now, there is a very good chance you are an English language learner preparing for the IELTS exam.
Yes, welcome. We are so glad you are here.
Our mission today is to help you practice your English listening skills. We are going to explore an actual reading passage from the test together.
The passage is titled, "The Structural Geometry of Paper, Deployable Shelters."
And since we know you are studying, we are going to speak very slowly and enunciate clearly. We will use simple, everyday English to break down this amazing true story.
Right. We want to help you understand not just the basic facts, but the complex engineering concepts behind them.
Because in the IELTS reading exam, you often have to understand how different ideas connect to each other, right?
Exactly. So today, we will take our time. We will clearly explain how a simple ancient art form became a cutting-edge scientific tool.
So let's start with that ancient art form. It is called origami.
Ah, yes, origami.
Origami is the traditional Japanese practice of folding flat sheets of paper into beautiful three-dimensional shapes, like paper birds or flowers.
Yeah, and for hundreds of years, it was primarily seen as just a creative and relaxing hobby.
But the reading passage explains that a major shift happened. Starting in the 1960s, engineers and scientists began to look at origami in a completely different way.
Right. They realized that the strict geometric rules of paper folding could actually solve very complex modern problems.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. They started applying these ancient folding techniques to design highly advanced technologies.
And these technologies range in size from the microscopic all the way to the massive.
They really do. On the small scale, medical researchers used origami patterns to design tiny medical devices.
Like what kind of devices?
Well, for example, doctors often need to insert small tubes into a patient's body to keep a blood vessel open.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and using origami geometry, engineers created small tubes that can travel through the body in a very compact folded shape.
And then they just expand to their full size once they reach the right location.
Exactly. And at the other end of the size scale, engineers have used these exact same folding rules to design large robotic structures that can essentially unfold and build themselves.
That is fascinating. But perhaps the most famous and important historical application of origami involves space travel.
Yes, space travel. This is a huge part of the reading passage. The text introduces us to a pioneering Japanese space scientist named Koryo Miura.
Koryo Miura. He looked at the geometry of paper and invented a very specific, revolutionary folding pattern.
Today, that pattern is known around the world as the Miura-Ori fold.
So to understand why the Miura-Ori fold is so special, we need to picture its geometric design.
Right, it is not like folding paper into normal squares or rectangles.
No, this pattern relies on a continuous grid of repeating diamond shapes.
And these interconnected diamond shapes completely change how the material behaves.
Right, because with the standard piece of paper, you have to unfold it step by step, right? Like opening one flap at a time.
Exactly. But with the Miura-Ori fold, if you pull on opposite corners, the entire massive surface opens up all at once.
Wow.
Yeah, it opens in one smooth, continuous motion.
It is such a brilliant mechanism. To make it simple, think about an umbrella you use to stay dry in the rain, or a musical instrument like an accordion.
That is a great analogy.
Both of these objects share a fundamental mechanical challenge. They need to be very large and expansive when you are actively using them.
Right, an umbrella has to be big to keep the rain off you.
Exactly. But they need to pack down into a very small, highly compressed shape when you are carrying them around.
And Koryo Miura realized that his repeating diamond pattern solved this exact problem for space engineers.
Because space is the ultimate environment where size matters, right?
Oh, absolutely. Inside a rocket, there is very little room. Every single inch of cargo space is extremely valuable.
So let's look at 1995. Japan launched a spacecraft called the Space Flyer Unit.
And this spacecraft needed massive solar panels to collect energy from the sun.
The panels had to be huge to capture enough sunlight, but a huge, flat panel simply would not fit inside the launch rocket.
So they used the Miroori fold. By applying this origami pattern, engineers could compress an enormous sheet of solar panels into a very small, flat package.
And once the spacecraft was safely in orbit, what happened?
The panels smoothly expanded to their full, massive size, all at once.
That is amazing. Now, if you are listening and taking notes for your IELTS exam, here is an important strategy tip for you.
Yes, pay close attention here.
You will likely see a question asking you to match a person's name to their specific achievement.
You must remember that Koryo Mira is the person who pioneered the technique to compact large materials for space travel.
Let me repeat that slowly. Koryo Mura is the person who pioneered the technique to compact large materials for space travel.
That is a crucial detail to remember. So we can clearly see how space engineers used origami to save valuable room in a rocket.
Right, but how does this space technology connect to natural disasters back here on Earth?
Well, that question brings us to the modern hero of our story, a 14-year-old student named Miles Wu.
14 years old. That is incredible.
I know, right? So in late 2024, the United States experienced several devastating natural disasters.
There were massive wildfires that destroyed homes across Southern California.
And a powerful storm named Hurricane Helene caused terrible damage in Florida.
So young Miles Wu was watching the news coverage of these events, and he noticed a severe problem with the emergency disaster tents provided to the families who had lost their homes.
Yeah, Wu identified what he called a three-part problem in the design of emergency shelters.
A three-part problem. What does that mean?
He observed that traditional disaster tents usually met one or two important goals, but almost never all three.
Okay, what were the goals?
A shelter might be sturdy, meaning it could withstand bad weather, or it might be cheap to manufacture, or it might be easy and fast to set up.
Right.
But it was almost impossible to find a tent that was sturdy, cheap, and easy to set up all at the exact same time.
Okay, let's unpack this for a moment. Why is it so difficult for engineers to achieve all three of these goals in one single tent design?
Well, it is a fundamental conflict of building materials.
How so?
If you want a tent that is highly sturdy, strong enough to survive heavy rain and wind, you traditionally have to build it with heavy metal poles and thick canvas.
Sure, that makes sense.
But metal poles are very expensive to produce, and they are extremely heavy to transport to a disaster zone, especially where roads might be destroyed.
And I imagine they take a long time to build, too.
Exactly. On the other hand, if you use lightweight plastic tubing, the tent becomes cheap and easy to carry.
But let me guess, it will simply blow away or snap in half during a strong windstorm.
You got it. That is the exact problem Miles Wu wanted to solve.
So he recognized that the heavy, expensive materials were the main issue.
Yes. And he theorized that the strong, folding geometry of the Miroori space pattern could provide the perfect solution.
Ah, I see the connection now. If he could apply this space fold to ordinary lightweight materials.
He might be able to create an emergency shelter that was cheap, incredibly strong against the weather, and able to pop open instantly.
Just like the solar panels in space.
Exactly like the solar panels.
No, having a brilliant theory is a great start. But in the scientific community, a theory is useless unless you can prove it with real, measurable data.
Right. The reading passage explains that Wu had to rigorously test his hypothesis using the scientific method.
So what did he do?
He actually transformed the living room of his family's New York City apartment into a dedicated structural testing laboratory.
A living room lab. That is so cool. Did he just start folding paper with his hands?
No, actually, he started with complex digital models. Wu used computer software to design 54 unique variations of the Miroori fold.
54 variations. That is a lot.
Yeah, he systematically changed the specific mathematical details of the pattern. He adjusted the height of the folds, the width of the creases, and the exact angles of the connecting diamond shapes.
So he was searching for the absolute perfect geometric ratio, the exact mathematical design that would distribute physical weight most efficiently.
Precisely. And here's another vital study tip for your IELTS exam.
Listen up, everyone.
If a test question asks, who used digital tools to design variations of the fold? The answer is Miles Wu.
Let me say that clearly. Miles Wu is the person who designed dozens of mathematical variations of a fold using computer software.
Excellent. So once Wu had his 54 computer designs, he needed to build physical models to test in the real world.
But wait, if he folded the paper with his own hands, wouldn't there be a problem with human error?
Yes, that is exactly what he recognized. If his hands weren't perfectly steady, the creases might not be perfectly straight.
And even a tiny mistake in the folding angle could ruin the geometric strength of the entire structure.
Exactly. So to guarantee perfect mathematical precision, he used a specialized machine to score and fold the paper.
Smart. What kind of paper did he use?
He tested his patterns on 3 different structural materials: standard, thin copy paper, a slightly thicker light card material, and a dense, heavy card material.
Okay, so he cut each of these materials into uniform squares, measuring 64 square inches. And then came the physical load-bearing tests.
Right, the fun part. Wu placed each folded geometric pattern between 2 metal rails.
Then, he carefully and systematically piled heavy objects directly on top of the paper structure.
His goal was to calculate the strength-to-weight ratio. He wanted to measure exactly how much heavy mass the paper could hold before the geometric shapes finally bent and collapsed under the pressure.
So how many tests did he do?
He conducted 108 total trials, and the final results completely shocked everyone.
Oh, wow, really? What happened?
Well, before the testing began, Wu assumed that his very best geometric pattern would probably break after he placed 50 pounds of textbooks on top of it.
50 pounds? That is roughly 22 kilograms. Honestly, for a small piece of paper, supporting 50 pounds is already an incredible structural achievement.
It is. But the paper did not collapse at 50 pounds.
It didn't.
It did not even bend. The best Mira-Ori patterns easily supported over 200 pounds.
200 pounds, that is about 90 kilograms.
Yeah. The structural geometry was so surprisingly strong that Wu actually ran out of heavy textbooks in his apartment.
So what did he do?
He was forced to go out and purchase solid iron exercise weights just to finish his experiments.
That is unbelievable.
Let us examine the physics of why this happened so you understand the concept.
Yes, please explain.
When heavy iron weights push down on a flat, normal piece of paper, all the force concentrates into one spot.
And the paper immediately crumples.
Right. But when the paper is folded into the Mira-Ori diamond pattern, the downward force does not stay in one place.
Oh, I see.
The interconnected geometric angles push against each other. They distribute the heavy weight evenly across every single crease and fold in the entire structure.
Here is where it gets really interesting. Ultimately, Wu identified one specific mathematical variation of the fold that was stronger than all the rest.
And how strong was it?
This single piece of paper successfully supported more than 10,000 times its own physical weight.
That is just phenomenal.
The reading passage provides a striking visual analogy to help us understand this number. That specific strength-to-weight ratio is the equivalent of a normal passenger car supporting the combined weight of several thousand large animals on its roof.
That really puts it into perspective. It is a phenomenal engineering achievement, especially for a project conducted in a teenager's living room.
Absolutely. And because of his rigorous methodology and stunning results, Wu's project quickly gained national attention.
The reading passage transitions from his home laboratory to a major stage. Wu entered his research into the 2025 Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge.
Which is one of the most prestigious science competitions in the country.
And his hard work paid off. He won the top overall prize at the competition.
Wow, good for him.
The text introduces us to Maya Ajmera, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Society for Science.
And Maya Ajmera publicly discussed why the judging panel was so deeply impressed by Wu and his project.
She highlighted 2 specific reasons for his victory. First, she noted that Wu was actively trying to solve a real-world problem that hurt vulnerable communities.
Right, he was not just doing math for fun. He was trying to help people who had lost their homes in wildfires and hurricanes.
Second, she praised his personal behavior during the final stages of the competition.
What did he have to do?
Well, the students had to participate in live, hands-on engineering challenges. Wu was required to build parts of a functional robotic arm.
Under pressure.
Yes, while working under very strict time limits, with professional judges watching his every move.
Maya Ajmera specifically praised his composure during these intense live tests. Now, for our listeners, composure means maintaining a calm, clear, and focused mind, even when you are under extreme pressure.
Exactly. He did not panic when the clock was ticking down.
If you are tracking the key names for your IELTS exam, make a note right here. Maya Ajmera is the person who praised Wu's composure during the live tests.
I will say it one more time. Maya Ajmera praised Wu's composure during the live tests.
It is truly an inspiring story of innovation. A young student takes an ancient artistic tradition, combines it with space-age geometry, and potentially solves a major crisis in disaster relief.
It really is inspiring.
It is, but I actually want to push back on this idea just a little bit.
Oh, how come?
Well, we have to think critically about how this applies to the real world. A small paper model holding iron exercise weights in a quiet living room is undeniably cool.
Sure.
But natural disasters are chaotic. In a real hurricane, the wind blows at 100 miles per hour. Wouldn't those aggressive winds just catch the edges of the shelter and tear the paper completely apart at the folding joints?
That is an excellent point. And, well, it is exactly what professional structural engineers are worried about, too.
Oh, they are.
Yes. The reading passage makes it very clear that Wu's incredible laboratory success does not mean the problem is completely solved. Moving from a tiny model to a real functioning house presents severe challenges.
Okay, so to explain this, the text introduces Glaucio H. Polino. He is a highly respected engineering professor at Princeton University.
And Professor Paulino offers a serious professional warning about the concept of scaling up.
Scaling up. That means taking a small, successful design and building a much larger version of it, right?
Exactly. Professor Paulino emphasizes a fundamental law of physics. Structural strength does not increase evenly as an object gets larger.
So what works small doesn't always work big.
Right. A tiny paper model might distribute weight perfectly, but if you try to build that exact same geometric shape out of giant, heavy panels so a human family can live inside,
The physics begin to change.
yes, the massive panels might start to bend under their own extreme weight.
Furthermore, real-world architects have to account for unpredictable environmental forces. When you build a large structure, you create a massive surface area for the weather to attack.
And a hurricane does not just push straight down like an iron weight, does it?
No, it hits the structure with violent wind from the sides, lifting and pulling at the same time. This puts immense tearing pressure on the joints, the vulnerable places where the folded panels connect to each other.
Let us connect this back to your exam preparation for a moment. When you see a question about the unequal physical properties of large structures, you need to match it to Professor Paulino.
Yes, remember this fact. Glaucio H. Polino is the specific expert who identified that strength doesn't increase evenly as designs get larger.
Okay, so knowing that these massive environmental challenges exist, what does Miles Wu plan to do next?
Well, he fully acknowledges the detailed warnings from experts like Professor Polino. He knows that computer models and living room tests are not enough.
So his next major scientific goal is to build full-scale, human-sized models of his emergency shelters.
And he plans on shaving them into curved arches to better deflect the weather.
He wants to take these full-scale structures out of the laboratory and into the real world.
And what kind of tests will he do?
He plans to subject them to multi-directional wind testing.
Multidirectional. For our learners, multidirectional means the wind forces are coming from many different angles at once.
Exactly like a real storm. He needs to see exactly how the geometric joints behave when they are being pulled and pushed by chaotic weather.
And this brings us to our final key matching fact for your reading test.
Are you ready?
Make sure you remember that Miles Wu is the person who plans to conduct future multidirectional wind experiments.
He is the one driving the real-world testing forward.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, let us briefly trace the remarkable path of the Mira-Ori fold.
We began with origami as a purely artistic practice in Japan.
Then we explored how a space scientist utilized its complex geometry to pack massive solar panels into tiny rockets.
From the vacuum of space, we followed that exact same mathematical pattern into a teenager's living room in New York City.
We saw how rigorous scientific testing proved that this folding technique could support incredibly heavy loads.
And finally, we looked at the difficult but hopeful future of this technology.
We learned how this geometric phenomena might eventually evolve into sturdy, affordable, and instantly deployable emergency shelters for communities devastated by disasters.
Provided engineers can solve the complex physical challenges of scaling up, of course.
Studying for the IELTS exam can sometimes feel like a heavy burden, but when you practice your English listening skills using fascinating, real-world science like this, the process becomes so much more engaging.
It really does. It is about expanding your understanding of how the world works.
And remember the strategic approach we used today. When you read a dense academic passage, pay close attention to the specific contributions of each individual.
Right. Understanding exactly who designed the computer models, who pioneered the space technology, and who warned about the physics of scaling up is the absolute key to successfully answering those tricky matching questions.
You are doing fantastic work preparing for your exam, and we hope this breakdown has been helpful. But before we go, we want to leave you with a final thought.
Something to turn over in your mind after you finish studying today.
We spent this entire deep dive exploring how a relaxing, creative hobby involving folding paper contained a hidden mathematical genius that could fundamentally change modern structural engineering.
It's amazing when you think about it.
So, as you go about your week, think about this. If a young student can look at an ancient paper folding tradition and discover the future of global disaster relief, what other simple ancient hobbies might contain the hidden secrets we need to solve our modern world's most difficult scientific challenges?